Hello and welcome to our presentation, which focuses on the bioethical discussion of abortion.
So what exactly is abortion?
According to Grimes and Stewart, abortion is defined as the removal of a fetus or embryo from the uterus before the stage of viability. Research undertaken by Bankole, Singh and Haas suggests that there is a variety of reasons why people have abortions, including financial problems, the understanding of parental responsibilities, and a lack of social support. There are many different perspectives on the issue regarding the notion of murder, the rights of the mother, and the time at which the fetus is viable or considered human. Sedge et al. Reported that the global abortion rate is estimated at 28 per 1,000 women of childbearing age, but varies by and within regions. However, it must be noted that the medical intervention is not completely legalized in all countries.
Do y'all have any research information on the topic?
Well, there's a variety of literature discussing the ethical issue of abortion, including research articles and persuasive journal pieces. Judith Jarvis Thompson's article, A Defense of Abortion, whilst written some time ago, remains very applicable to the ongoing debate of abortion in today's society, as she argues against the idea that an embryo is a human being. She metaphorically compares an acorn and an oak tree to a fetus and a human being in order to highlight the distinct differences in development.
Thompson states that a newly fertilized ovum, a newly implanted clump of cells, is no more a person than an acorn is an oak tree. Through a central argument based on the acorn and the oak tree, Thompson elucidates the problems of a slippery slope arguments, implying that they often go too far and are not founded upon solid credible evidence, but rather arbitrary estimates of when a fetus should be considered human. With regard to when or whether it becomes murder, many against abortion believe that a fetus is a human being from conception, and to abort at any stage of fetal development would be murder.
There are many contrasting arguments surrounding abortion, which elicit debates about when a fetus can be considered viable, who, between the mother and the fetus, has the greater right to live, and which act is worse, killing the baby or letting the mother die.
Thompson makes reference to Daniel Callahan's statement that by the 10th week it already has a face, arms and legs, fingers and toes, it has internal organs, and brain activity is detectable, shedding light on the fact that many believe that the fetus is definitely human in the early stages of development. As a result of this, many believe that abortion is classified as killing. Despite this, Thompson claims that those who are against abortion use slippery slope arguments, spending most of their time establishing that the fetus is a person and hardly any time explaining the step from there to the impermissibility of abortion. Admitting it is difficult to definitively draw the line between when a fetus is human and when it is not, Thompson reiterates that at the point of fertilization it must be noted that the newly fertilized ovum is not human.
Thompson refers to a hypothetical situation in which the reader's circulatory system is plugged into that of a violinist against their will for 9 months in order to save his life. You are told that if he disconnected it before then, he will die. Thompson questions whether or not it is the reader's moral responsibility to adhere to this demand to save the violinist's life. She highlights that those who oppose abortion would claim that whilst you have the right to decide what happens to your body, the violinist's right to live outweighs your right to choose. Through this, she epitomizes the major flaws in the anti-abortion arguments, stating that those against abortion do not make any exceptions for pregnancies which result from rape, pregnancies that leave a mother bedridden for 9 months, pregnancies that shorten the mother's life, or those that will result in the mother's death.
In contrast to Thompson's acorn argument, James M. Humber's article, The Case Against Abortion, argues that a contraception, a human being with a genetic code, exists, thus deeming it unethical to take away its right to life. Since Humber pinpoints contraception as the moment a human being exists, he then extends to argue that a human being must be given all rights to life. Therefore, Humber opposes Thompson's acorn theory, as he avoids the blurred and unclear arguments that aim to distinguish between a zygote's right to life and a fetus's. Additionally, Humber dismisses Thompson's metaphoric comparison between an acorn and a fetus, as he argues that such arguments fail to consider the stages of an unborn human being's development.
In his article, A Confucian Perspective of Abortion, Philip J. Ivanhoe argues that because the woman has to go through all of the physical risks and many psychological liabilities, she should have the right to choose if she wants to have an abortion, and to what extent the father has a say in the decision. Through this, he supports Thompson's statements that the mother should be in control of what happens inside her body.
On the topic of abortion, there are many issues raised and debated by both pro-life and pro-choice individuals. These issues can be classified under one or more of either ethical, clinical, or professional issues.
Some of the more prominent ethical questions to do with abortion in today's society include the discussion about when in the gestative period aborting a fetus is considered murder, whether the life of the mother or the fetus is more important, how doctors should conduct themselves in relation to the views on abortion, and how readily available it should be.
One abortion, please.
There is a variety of clinical issues in relation to abortion which need to be addressed by health practitioners and patients. Firstly, the decision to administer an abortion surgically or through medication is a clinical issue as the stage of the pregnancy has to be considered. In addition, there is the central question of whether cancelling before and or after the operation is necessary. Whilst abortion is considered a significant event which has the potential to psychologically affect both the patient and the health practitioner, enforcing counselling sessions for those involved could be seen as interfering with the autonomy of the patient. Lastly, many of the procedures of abortion can cause great pain and bleeding for the woman. Therefore, some believe that better abortion methods and procedures need to be developed in order to minimize harm caused to the mother.
There are a variety of professional issues surrounding abortion. Firstly, it is the doctor's ethical duty to provide the patient with an unbiased perspective of the abortion procedure in order to facilitate and respect patient autonomy. The doctor must eliminate any bias and fully disclose all relevant information, striving to minimize his influence on the patient's decision. Secondly, the ethical principles of beneficence and non-maleficence are a central focus to the debate surrounding abortion, as the doctor has to consider the principles in relation to the mother, the child, and other family members. From the mother's perspective, an abortion may be beneficial if the birth of the baby will cause significant physical harm or psychological suffering. In addition, the doctor must consider the perspective of the fetus, taking into account the unborn being's right to life. After all, the abortion is not necessarily beneficial for the child. The psychological well-being of the father, who is genetically linked to the fetus, should also be noted, especially if he is against the procedure. Ultimately, the doctor is left with the question of whether the welfare of the mother outweighs that of the child or the father. Lastly, the doctor must evaluate the harm an abortion causes to both the mother and the unborn child. This professional issue is centered around whether the potential harm of the mother is great enough to justify the termination of the fetus's life.
As a team, we have come to various conclusions on the topic of abortion. Abortion cannot be perceived as a black and white issue. In fact, it is an extremely complex issue that can lead to a myriad of different arguments depending on the situation.
As a whole, we believe that the fetus cannot be considered as a human from the moment of contraception, as it takes several days for the fertilized egg to actually implant itself in the walls of the uterus, and in many cases, the zygote does not survive and is naturally removed from the body via menstruation. Therefore, it could be argued that if a woman has an abortion in the early stages of pregnancy, before the fetus has developed completely, it is not necessarily unethical.
Once the fetus is fully developed with all of its vital body parts and organs, that is, fundamental components of a human, we believe that it's unethical to abort the child. Despite this, we also believe that the rightness or wrongness of an abortion is dependent on the circumstances. For example, in the event of a pregnancy that is a result of rape, we believe that it's not ethical for the mother to be forced to have a child, as this may cause psychological and physical harm.
It is important that as a society, we step back and assess the balance between our respect for life and our respect for the givers of life, women. Many people who are against abortion believe that the fetus's right to live is more important than the mother's right to choose what happens in her body. What we need to understand is that being stripped of the right to choose what happens in one's body can ultimately lead to a reduced quality of life, and in some cases, where an abortion is not undertaken, the end of a woman's life. Is it truly fair to give life to an unborn fetus at the expense of the happiness, physical, and mental well-being of a current member of our society?
Who determines the sanctity of life? Many believe no one should have this power but God. Others argue that it is up to us to decide who lives and who dies. We believe it is circumstantial and each case must be dealt with on its own merit.
Thank you for watching our presentation on abortion.